guys. Well, I had so much fun reading El Cazador #1 that I went ahead and popped out El Cazador #2. So let's talk about The Birth of Lady Sin, Part 2. This is again written by Chuck Dixon with art by Steve Epting. And man, this artwork is just absolutely amazing. Like I said, the depth, the detail, I tend to like more scratchy, detailed lines, Jim Lee, Todd McFarlane, that sort of thing. But instead, you get this very slick artwork. And you have Jean Guillaume in the lower quarters with his men, and they're plotting to mutiny on El Cazador for Lady Sin because they don't want to follow a woman. They don't want to give up what they think is their power and their right as ship hands to a woman. Meanwhile, she's talking to her 3 most trusted aides, and she's trying to figure out where they should steer the El Cazador to meet Black Jack head on. And they say, well, there's a secret port that he goes to, but we're not privy to that information. We don't know where that's at. So she says, what chance do we have of finding this Serpent Head K? And he says, not a prayer, Lady Sin. And she responds, please do not call me that. And he says, it's what the lads call ye. But she said, it is not my name. And Abdullah, one of her trusted aides, says, the men have given you this name. They call ye that from respect, the way ye done for Captain Dane and stood up to Saugus. So there was a ship hand, a little boy, that got captured by Jean Guillaume and his crewmates here. And they know that he overheard them speaking about mutiny. And he says, you will not succeed in this betrayal. And Jean Guillaume says, still your tongue, infant. If I am feeling merciful when I become Capitan, then I will let you live. And in the end, you get to see a moment with Abdullah and Captain Lady Sin. And he says, pardon me, but you think of your loved ones. She says, only a few days passed, I was returning home to Cataluna with my brothers and my mother. My eldest brother is now slain, and the others are in the hand of that devil. And eventually, the littlest guy gets, Spadino is his name, gets away and manages to get into the bedroom of Lady Sin to warn her about the mutiny that's about to happen. And she says, you're hurt, poor child. And he says, I must guard you against. And she says, who has done this to you? And then you get to see the mutineers. And she says, we're taking the tiller and no mistake me, lady. And so she stabs one of them. And in the end, she goes up to the deck, the upper decks, and says to Jean Guillaume, she said, you will cross blades with me and only me, and El Cazador is the prize. Defeat me and the ship is yours, or will you shrink before the fairest sex? And it's little moments like this that I want to give praise to Chuck Dixon as well, and I'm sure that he put those in the script. But you get little moments like this panel here, where you see people, skulking around the ship and moving around the ship. And then you see the same thing in this middle panel where I've kind of got my fingers, and it breathes life into the story, and it breathes life into the reality of being on a ship in the middle of the sea. There's always someone scurrying up to the top to see if they can see out of the crow's nest. There's always people moving amongst the riggings and the ropes of the ship. And meanwhile, you see them have a fight, and she stabs him with her blade, and then eventually, cracks him over the head. And she says, now, who is the master of El Cazador? And he says, you are the ship's master. And they don't agree with it, but she ends up marooning those onto an island that have mutinied against her. And now everybody's upset, and they're like, "'Tis you that brought us to this pretty end." And so John Gillion says, "I swear by the devil's beard, this is not the end of Jean Gillion. I will find my way from this island. I will see that proud harlot beg me for mercy, and no force on earth can stray me from that course." So you started off strong with that first issue. Now you've continued strong, and she continues to show that there's a reason why she is the master of El Cazador, and nobody has thus far been able to take that away from her. So, guys, if you didn't read this when it first came out, or if you weren't even born when this first came out, if you want ships and seafaring and scallions and, scoundrels and all sorts of those things, this is the best pirate book that you will ever read. Unfortunately, it was only 8 issues in that one special, but hey, it's gotten started off extremely strong. So that's it for El Cazador issue number 2. But I hope you guys enjoyed this look at this book, and I hope that you get a chance to look on eBay and try to find the whole series so that you can check it out for yourself.